Imagine this, you've just spent years getting your Airbnbs together, managing guests, learning about turnover, understanding how to connect with cleaners, and then all of a sudden the landscape shifts. We've all seen this happen since the pandemic. Airbnb crushed it for the first couple of years and it's completely turned. So hosts are now struggling to make things work. Your bookings have slowed down, your revenues had dipped, and what was once steady income now seems to be uncertain. What if I told you there's not only a way to stabilize your income, but actually capitalize on the income that you're bringing in today? All while doing this without the uncertainties of turnover, without having to deal with guests that are complaining, all without having to deal with the percentages that you pay to Airbnb. This isn't just a tweak in how you're currently operating, but a complete mental shift on how you're looking at guests. In fact, midterm rentals are the strategy that many people are converting to today. But the problem is they're not doing it in a way that's correct. I believe the right way operating a midterm rental is actually by making more money than you did with your Airbnb, by having less turnover, less guests complaining, and most importantly, building a business with a company that can help you build your specific clients. And it might sound easy, it actually is. And today I'm going to show you how to make a shift if you're ready to move on from uncertainty to constant, reliable income. Let's dive in on how to put together a midterm rental in 2024. So you're probably even asking yourself, well, what actually is a midterm rental? Midterm rentals are properties that you're able to rent for 1 to 6 months to 9 months to even up to a year with a traditional lease. And these are where folks will actually stay at your property for longer durations of time. One of the cool things that I love about midterm rentals, they can actually exceed the amount of money that you get from an Airbnb, which means you can actually make more cash with a midterm rental than you can with a short-term rental. And let me give you an example of this. You can actually charge $2,500 to $3,000 per month instead of $150 per night with far fewer guest turnovers. The other thing about that is you have to think about this. If you're charging $150 per night, let's do the math on this for a second. Let's take a look. 150 times 8. That's $1,200 a month that you're making on a property that you only are able to rent 8 days a month. And there's a lot of people that have property out there where only their weekends are booked. And that's okay, but there's another alternative, and that is midterm rentals, where you can actually, instead of making the $1,200 per month, you're able to make $3,000 or maybe even $2,500. And I like that better than only making the $1,200. So this is a way that we're going to talk about today on how to actually earn more cash from your property with very basic principles. So we're going to go ahead and dive into like what the actual fees are for Airbnb and what the fees are for midterm rentals. And we're going to be talking about those two things in particular so that you get a good idea of what you're actually being charged and how you can make money with midterm rentals, how you can earn more with midterm rentals. So let's talk about Airbnb service fees. That's the first one. Typically, Airbnb charges the host fee 3% per booking, but this can be up to 14% depending on cancellation policy and other factors just similar to that. Let's assume 14% service fee. And if you're charging $150 a night and you're booking 20 nights a month, your revenue would be about $3,000. The service fee at 14% of those $3,000 will equal out to be, you heard it right, your favorite number, $420 a month in service fees. So that's the first set of the numbers. Next one is cleaning fees. With short-term rentals like Airbnb, you need to clean the property after every single guest, which can quickly add up. So let's actually break down an example of this calculation. Assume your cleaning fee is $75 per stay, which is not very much, maybe like for a condo or a studio or something like that. And you have 10 bookings per month. That's $750 just in cleaning fees alone. For midterm rentals, you might only need cleaning fee like once a month, reducing the costs significantly. So imagine that you just have a 30-day booking and your cleaning fee is only $75, not $750, which is like 1,000% markup, right? Another set of fees are listing fees and marketing costs. Airbnb doesn't charge for direct listing fee, but you may incur additional marketing costs if you want to stand out from the crowded market. Example, you might be spending extra on professional photography, which I need you to do 100%. Like everybody needs to have professional photography. And then for maintenance and wear and tear, there is so much more wear and tear with short-term rentals than there are midterm rentals. Guests, the short-term rental guests just come in, they throw their crap all over the place. They just don't care about how your place is actually going to be dealt with. They don't care about the cleaning. They don't care about rolling suitcases upstairs. They just don't care about that. The wear and tear is significantly, I feel, less with midterm rental guests because they're staying there, they're living there, they actually care about the home in a different way. Plus frequent repairs. This is something that happens with our Airbnb properties. There's always something to repair because people are lugging their suitcases upstairs and we'll get chips on things and we want to make sure we take care of those. So linens is another thing. If you're washing those consistently, those costs add up tremendously. Not a lot of people actually talk about that. Let's round all this stuff up. We just talked about all these different costs, all these different things. Let's sum up monthly costs for a typical Airbnb. So we're assuming the revenue is $3,000 a month. We're assuming there's 20 nights that are booked. We're assuming you're charging $150 a night. That is the Airbnb service fee is $420. The cleaning cleaning fee is $750 because we talked about the 10 turns in a month. Additional maintenance, wear and tear, we're just gonna say that's $150 a month. That's a total cost of $1,300, I believe. I could be wrong, which means if you're making $3,000 a month on this property, you are now down to, you're minusing the $1,370 in the cost, and you're down to $1,630, which is hardly anything at all. So if you look at that, that does not make any sense at all. You're actually making half of the money that you were originally making because Airbnb charges all those different fees. And those are things that you need to make sure that you're paying attention to. So let's dive into the midterm rental comparison now. So Airbnb service fee. If you're booking on Airbnb, you're going to get the 14% booking fees, which quite a bit. It's 14% if you end up doing that. But if you use platforms like Furnish Finder, you connect with them, that doesn't actually cost you anything at all to do that. You're actually just booking the leads. You're going directly to the person on the other side, which is great. Fewer cleaning fees. We talked about Airbnb, you'd have $750 in cleaning fees for those 10 different types of folks that are staying with you. With the midterm space, you're only going to have $75 worth of cleaning fees for 1 month, which means you'd have one cleaner that comes out once a month just to make sure everything's staying okay, and they're doing just a quick overview on the place. Maintenance, less frequent turnovers means less wear and tear. So maintaining a property might be around 50 to 150 bucks a month, which is a lot less than what you would typically have with Airbnb. So example calculation, on a midterm rental, we're going to assume that your midterm rental is making, let's just say $2,800 a month. You have the cleaning fee of $75, your maintenance, which is going to say 50 bucks. So your net revenue on that $2,800 is going to equal to be $2,675, which is significantly better than the Airbnb side. So you can see the two are totally on opposite ends there, which is important to recognize and understand. All right, I've spent over 10,000 hours refining this midterm rental strategy, the one that I'm going to show you in particular right now. And I've learned so much from my own mistakes so that you don't have to. And here's what makes the midterm rental space so appealing. It's comfortable. You don't have to get crazy and go all out with different wallpapers in every room. It doesn't need to stand out like an Airbnb. You don't need to have cactuses all over the place and be themed and all this other stuff. You just need to have fast internet and you need to have an equipped kitchen for somebody to actually live there. And let me tell you, this approach actually works. My students are absolutely crushing it right now in the midterm rental space, going from zero experience to securing contracts with companies. And they've been able to do this because they're learning from my 10,000 hours. So I want to make sure that I share my personal experience of being in this space for quite some time, since 2015, before midterm rentals were cool. And this is something that I've been able to build up into a multi-million-dollar business. Like, this is freaking crazy. And people just like you are doing this exact same thing. So I really want to make sure that your property meets tenant standards, that it's meeting these specific spots that these clients are wanting to have. And the success stories of students that I've had in this space are really nice properties connecting with companies. In fact, I just had a woman named Christine. I'm going to put a link up to the video right here. She just landed a massive contract, was able to arbitrage properties over 12, got them booked within 3 weeks, and is building a massive midterm rental empire all over the US and in a city that I think is really difficult to build in, and that's Las Vegas. So check out that video. Now we're actually going to dive into the process of setting up your midterm rentals from a step-by-step process. Okay, your first step in getting ready to put together your midterm rentals is you need to make sure that you actually research the market and identify the demand. So are there travel companies that are coming into that market? Is there certain, industrial places that require folks to come work on assignment? Is there road work that's happening in your markets? Is there a big sewer system that's being completed? Is there projects that are happening on a large scale in your market? Is there hospitals, whether it's level 1, level 2, or level 3? Do you even know what those are? These are things that you have to make sure you're paying attention to, because you need to have different type of clients that you're going after. It can't just be insurance or temporary housing or just travel nurses. There has to be a huge sector of all these different folks. So I'd first start by researching your specific market, and you need to find the right type of property to meet the type of tenants that you're going to have. So if you're going to house travel nurses, is that studio? Is that going to work? If you're going to house business travelers, do you want to have more than one room? Do you want to think a little bit bigger? So you got to make sure you're finding the right property, and that could mean a bunch of different things. So you need to understand specifically how to do that. So now we're going to go into finding the right property. I typically have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. That's my favorite property to pick up, but it's also not the only one that you need to be thinking about. Again, we have multiple different properties that you want to go through, whether that's a studio, a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom. You're going to have to look at what the demand looks like in your market, and you can go on places like Furnish Finder, which we'll get into a bit deeper here on this, but you want to make sure that you're setting up a comfortable and practical place for these tenants to be staying on a monthly basis, which means they need to be thinking about this like it's their actual home. Like, it needs to be put together that well. Think about where you live now, how comfortable the couches are, how comfortable your bed is. This property that you're putting together for other people needs to fit that standard where you'd actually want to live in that place and not just rent it out to make a few bucks. And that's the goal, but it has to be comfortable. Make that your number one. Pricing is going to be super key. So you need to find and strike a balance between affordability and profitability. This is where I see people falling in the category of wanting to have these high luxury homes, but not realizing they have a rent or a mortgage that's super high. And unfortunately, sometimes you're not going to meet the demand for those specific types of clients unless you're hosting C-suite executives or something of that nature. So you want to make sure that you have a property that is going to be in a nice, safe, comfortable area, but is also priced accordingly so that you do have the ability to charge a bit more, maybe have an common amenities like blackout curtains and things of that nature. Maybe have a property that has super fast Wi-Fi. So you want to make sure that you're picking up a property that is going to make sense for you. And I know right now with the landscape of the real estate market being the way it is, it's hard to find properties that are going to cash flow as a long-term rental with 7% interest rate. So be very thoughtful on your exit strategies, what type of clients you're going to be going after. And if for some reason the midterm rental doesn't work, what are you going to do afterwards? Can you long-term rent it and have it make sense? I don't know. You got to decide that. You have to look that up. One of the other big things about getting into the midterm rental space is knowing when it comes to marketing, don't just rely on listing sites like Airbnb and VRBO. You need to make sure that you're using things like local businesses, like I just talked about a minute ago, and LinkedIn and connecting with potential tenants. LinkedIn is such a powerful tool when it comes to building your midterm rental business. You almost have to think about it like a sales role. You are in charge of your own house on your own land that you're able to build a portfolio off of, but you actually have to be reaching out on a business level with these other folks. So you have to think of yourself as a sales rep that is going out to connect with other companies that may need to have folks staying in their properties. I'll give you an example. I have a company named Gallo Winery that's in my backyard, not in my actual backyard, but in the same area. And I reached out to them. They actually happen to have engineers that were coming into this market, and they have seasonal engineers that come every quarter. And what they do is they help produce wines that are specific to different regions in the world, and they help Gallo do that. I was able to strike up a contract with them, and I would never have had that happen if I didn't reach out and connect with one of these folks on LinkedIn and start the conversation about the types of travelers that they have, where they're actually staying, how much money they're looking at spending, how close it is to the job site. So all those things need to be super particular to you when you're reaching out and connecting with different folks. But you have to make sure you have a professional and forward outlooking business model. And also you need to think about yourself as a sales rep, because at the end of the day, that's what you're doing. You're selling a service, and it's the B2B level. It's on business to business. You're selling your service to another business, and that's how you build in that specific site. One of the other things to do is to make sure that you market in the right spots. And what do I actually mean by that is maybe going on Furnish Finder and connecting with what's called unmatched leads. There are leads that come through on Furnish Finder, and this could be someone that works, let's just say right now her name's Cynthia, and she works over at AMN Healthcare, and she's a nurse coming into a market that's looking specifically for a property to stay in. And this is exactly what I would be doing. I'd reach out to her and say, hey, I saw that you are an unmatched lead. Have you happened to secure housing yet? And they would say no. And I would say, what company are you working with? Do you have the ability to tell me who your recruiter is? Can I connect with them? Because I want to be able to house more folks just like you in a safe, comfortable place. Because what I do, I'm actually a service provider specifically for clinicians just like you. And my goal is to connect with companies so that they have the resources to have these folks stay at our properties. And now you're connecting and creating a relationship with these folks so that they're going to continue to send you business. And you have to think about this on a regular basis. Furnish Finder is a great way to do that. Airbnb does this as well. You have to actually connect and actually have discussion with the folks that are booking your place, finding out where they're at, what they're doing, who they work with, what is their name, and who is their daddy. I'm just kidding. That's from I think Arnold Schwarzenegger said that in, what movie is that? Damn it, I don't even remember. You have to ask the right questions in order to get the right answers that are going to allow you to build your business. And I think that's one of the frameworks of building a midterm rental business, is asking the right freaking questions. Only think about the money coming in and not the questions they need to be asking to the people to actually build something that's worth something. Hopefully you've been able to learn a few things already about starting a midterm rental business, about what to do, what not to do. I'm actually going to read from some notes that I've gotten from people. And here's exactly what this first note says. Jesse, is it true that midterm rentals don't generate as much income as short-term rentals? Well, the truth is they can match or even exceed short-term rental numbers. You guys saw that today when you went through and looked at some of these numbers. In reality, with short-term rentals, you're having to pay service fees, you're having to pay cleaning fees, all these extra things that are added on. Yes, you can absolutely make more money with midterm rentals. In fact, I think it's one of the smarter ways to go. You don't have to deal with the turnover. You don't have to deal with the service fees unless you're listing on Airbnb. Of course, you got to pay those. You do get to skirt the regulations if there is a short-term rental regulations in your market. You go around those because those tenants are staying for 30 days, which puts them under the long-term category, which allows you to win. So definitely a solid opportunity in that space if you're thinking about it from this perspective. Here's another myth. Let me read this to you guys. This says, I think that it's hard to find tenants, but if you build the right relationships, is it actually easier than you think? Okay, does that make sense to you guys? I'm trying to read it the right way. Another myth is that it's hard to find tenants, but if you build the right relationships, it's actually easier than you think. Somebody actually wrote that to me, and yes, that's 100% true. What they're actually trying to say, and that is without it being all jumbled, it's easy to find tenants if you're able to connect with the right companies and you're able to build a relationship, because what they'll do is that one company can literally serve your entire year. They can have these clients that come every quarter, every 90 days. And now instead of having hundreds of Airbnb clients, you now only have 4 guests, 4 turnovers a year because they're staying for 90 days at a time. That's truly magic if you're able to get to that position, which it is fantastic to be there. I can promise you. The other thing that I want to make sure that I bring up is people actually think here, this person says, I actually worry about managing my midterm rentals because it seems so complex. In reality, midterm rentals often require less day-to-day management than short-term rentals. I can tell you that for a freaking Fact. Because I operate both short-term and midterm rentals, and when you get a client that stays with you for that duration of time, it actually makes things a lot easier. You don't have to deal with the day-to-day stuff. A light bulb goes out in the bathroom, they're not messaging you saying, hey, I need you to put a new light bulb in. Like, these guests that stay at midterm rentals are a totally different type of client. They're actually on assignment. They feel like your home is their home. They're taking care of it in the same way. And granted, you are going to get somebody that might maybe spills a glass of wine on a white carpet or a white couch or something of that nature. It's part of the game, but you are going to have a better quality tenant, in my opinion. They are far more superior than the short-term rental folks that are staying at your house just to party and throw all those other things. So I believe that it's easier to manage midterm rentals than it is to manage short-term rentals. All right, hopefully that works for you guys and this makes a little bit more sense. And let's do a quick recap of what we actually went over today. We know that midterm rentals offer way more stability and profit when it comes to actually listing your properties on platforms. We saw the breakdown today. So if you're ready to dive deeper, check out some of the links in my description where you can find resources to join my free Facebook group where there's hundreds of operators, actually thousands of operators just like you. Or if you're looking at building even further, there's 450 people that are in my mastermind that are actually building in my community successful businesses just like Christine, like these other people that have been able to massively scale in 10 months or less. And that's one of the things that I love actually doing, is working directly with people just like you to get your businesses from 0 to 100. That's what I love. So if you found this video useful at all, please leave a like, a comment down below. If there's something you didn't like about this video, leave a comment down below. And I hope that you're able to build a successful business in the midterm rental space in 2024, as I believe right now is the prime time to get into this, with regulations happening all over the place, with the short-term rental market drifting down lower, especially since we just saw a 14% decrease in the stock, which has dropped tremendously. People aren't traveling the way they were, but there's this whole sector, which is the midterm rental movement, that is happening right now. And the ability for you to make money in this space is definitely wide open. It's just up to you to make the decision to go all in on it. We'll see you in the next one. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Stay safe.